So I have been catching up with some modern Marvel comics. Where I'm at now, though, is I'm not really picking up trade paperbacks anymore because I find myself probably a third of the time when I go in looking to buy trade paperbacks, I don't see something that interests me and end up leaving empty-handed. But getting the single issue printings might end up being a little bit more expensive than if you waited for the TPB. Well, to get little samplings of different ongoing stories that are happening without having to commit to 5 or 6 issues of one story. The first one I read was issue number 1 of a new What If series. This one was What If Thor got the Venom symbiote, which kind of undermines itself by the end, because by the time Thor figures out how to get the Venom symbiote off of him, you're like, oh wait, yeah, this character would very easily be able to resist and remove the symbiote from him. So it just feels like a little bit undermined, a little bit pointless by the end. It's kind of like he just gets a new suit and he doesn't become that much more evil or that much more different. As well, I thought this was going to be an ongoing story. I thought there was going to be 4 issues of this, but it seems like the next issue of this is going to be an entirely different story, even though they end this with some sort of fucking tease that Loki is going to get symbiote and they're going to do some fucking story with that. But like, who gives a rat's? I don't care. There was 2 issues of the new Wolverine run that I read as well. One of them is like wrapping up an ongoing story, so it's like all the action is happening. You don't have that much of the backstory. It's a little bit confusing to be thrown in at the deep end. One of Wolverine's sets of claws have been removed, so now he just has the bone claws, not the fucking adamantium ones. Even the bone claws get snapped off then, so he has no claws on one of his hands. But yeah, as I said, thrown in at the deep end, very confused. Hercules is there, and I find it funny, he calls Wolverine like little man or something like that at one point, and then later on he calls him Wild One, and he's not trying to be disrespectful. It's just the way those god characters speak in Marvel are always like old Shakespearean kind of dialogue. The following issue after that, though, was great. I love that issue. That's going to be an issue that I box off to like read again and show other people. So there's Wolverine and Nightcrawler go on holiday. He kind of tricks Wolverine into going on holiday because it's like, you need one or whatever. They end up in a little fight with some supervillains. It's just a cute little fun story. Wolverine's healing factor isn't working anymore, which kind of like, you've done that so many times in so many comics. It's like they can't figure out how to have like stakes and tension in a story with someone who can heal from anything. Like, fuck it, let's just have him either not have the indestructible metal, not have the claws, or not have the healing factor. Let's just remove shit from this character to try and make it more interesting, because I can't think of how to write this character. Particularly after reading, I read the original, I think it was Wolverine 1 through 4, maybe, or it might have been like Astonishing X-Men 230 or whatever, but it was the original story of when he first went to Japan. Crazy thing for Frank Miller art that isn't absolute garbage. And then I started reading Weapon X, compendium of the story of him getting the adamantium and the mind wiping treatment. So like, I had been conditioned into reading a bunch of really good Wolverine stuff, and then I picked this up, and it was, let's say, a letdown compared to those. But also, when you release your expectations of this being something artsy, you can enjoy it more, essentially. I thought, stupidly, I didn't actually read them properly. I just looked at the pictures when I picked them up, and I was like, okay, this must be issue 1 and issue 2 of the same story, but they weren't, entirely unrelated. But both of them seem to be setting up and or inspired by the next Spider-Man movie that's coming out that have Hulk and the Punisher. So the issue 2 was the one I read first, and that has Mr. Negative has taken over the Punisher and he's evil now. Because they can't just have him snap. I think that would be a thing. You could have him snap again, because he already snapped when his family died. You can have someone else die in his arms or something, and that makes him go fully off the deep end. Even just fucking do the Garth Ennis, if you're already going to be, you know what I mean, digging out of his fucking trash can, you might as well do the thing of somebody dies in a supervillain crossfire in front of him, and that makes him more radical. Something like that, instead of just, he's being controlled by a villain, so he's evil now. So that issue can suck my dick and balls at the same time from behind. There's more Spider-Man in it, though, and I like Spider-Man comics. I like the fact that he's always quipping and always being sarcastic and making jokes. I like the whole double life thing, which you don't really get from MCU movies. Nobody has a secret identity, really, other than Spider-Man. And the last next issue that I'm going to review, and I think this is King of the Castle. This is top of the tree, this one, right? So this is the other Spider-Man one. This was the issue number 1. And this is essentially like the movie Predator, right? So that you have Punisher and a little group of other military guys in military garb. Like, he's not dressed up like the Punisher. I don't think he's gone down that path just yet in this story. But it's like the movie Predator. And you know, I like the movie Predator. So the Hulk is picking off his squad one at a time. And it's just a fucking interesting issue, the way they write Frank, the way you see the destruction of a Hulk going on a rampage. Hulk is quite coherent and able to talk in this, which I don't like. I prefer like Savage Hulk, like Barbarian Hulk, where he's just like, grog, smash. Spider-Man's barely in this one. I think I was like halfway through it and I was like, wait, Spider-Man hasn't even showed up yet. He shows up at the end and someone calls him in to examine the crime scene and he's like, interesting or whatever, and that's it. He's not really in it. This is just a Punisher Hulk comic. This is another one that I call gateway comics, where you can just like, you give this to someone that isn't a big comic fan and they read it and they're probably going to be interested in reading some more comics. But yeah, fucking Hulk, smash that like button.